A very good evening. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge, and this is GBS News at 9, coming to you live from Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Stay tuned as we bring you the latest updates, but first, here are the highlights. President William Ruto jets back following his participation in the G7 and Ukraine peace summits in Italy.
Visited Baron Hospital and found the documents did not originate from the hospital.
Justice delayed, justice denied. Sharon Otieno matter. Prosecution rests. Defense prepares for final arguments in a 6-year-long murder case.
We can make education for all children in Africa a reality.
Day of the African Child. First Lady roots for quality education for all children to educate every African to benefit for the 21st century through the development.
A big moment for Kenya, being part of a team that makes history for the country and being the first team to qualify for the World Cup.
And in sports, junior starlets make history by qualifying for maiden World Cup in a remarkable feat, following their 5-0 aggregate victory over Burundi in the 4th and final round of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers. And now President William Ruto returned to the country on Monday morning following his participation in the G7 and the Ukraine peace summits in Italy and Switzerland. In pictures and videos seen by the media, President Ruto returned aboard a Kenya Airways flight. He was received by senior government officials, including Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki and Principal Secretary Raymond Omolo. Others were Kenya Air Force Commander Major General Fatma Ahmed, National Assembly and Senate Majority Leaders Kimani Ichung'wah and Aaron Cheruiyot, among others. The president left the country on Thursday, June 13th, on a chartered plane to Brindisi, Puglia, Italy for the G7 summit. He then flew with the same chartered plane to Bugenstock, Switzerland for a high-level meeting to forge peace in Ukraine. President William Ruto has joined world leaders in condemning Russia for invading Ukraine. The president termed Russia's aggression against Ukraine as unlawful, unjust, and against the international law. He said that it is time for the parties to the conflict to demonstrate good faith, abandon unyielding attitudes, and soften their positions for a lasting peace to be realized. The president said the globe must embark on the collective effort to resolve the war. But he spoke on Saturday in Bugenstock, Switzerland, when he joined other world leaders for the inaugural summit on peace in Ukraine. President Ruto regretted that the war has devastating impact across the world, including Africa. Kenya, he went on, had not been spared as the war in Ukraine had led to increased prices of fertilizers. But even as the world focuses on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, President Ruto urged the globe to pay attention to the forgotten wars tearing apart Africa's social fabric.
Switzerland, the President Zelensky of Ukraine, Madam Vice President of the United States, heads of states, ladies and gentlemen. 79 years after the international community established a multilateral institutional framework to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been a horrifying spectacle of carnage and devastation, which has left 500,000 people dead and 7.1 million people displaced in its wake. Across the world, people and nations are enduring the negative consequences of disrupted supply chains. Kenya's position has been clear and unequivocal from the beginning. Russia's aggression against Ukraine is unlawful, unjust, and a violation of the fundamental principles of international law, which honor the sovereign equality of nations, upholds their territorial integrity, and advocates the peaceful resolution of all disagreements. Just like the war in Ukraine, the war in the Middle East has been equally devastating. So is the case with the war in the Sahel region in Africa, in Eastern DRC, in Somalia, in the Horn of Africa, and of course in the Sudan. 40 million Africans have been displaced by the war in our continent, and 2.5 million kids are out of school. This state of affairs speaks volumes of global leadership, and especially the peace architecture at the United Nations, and more specifically, the gridlock at the United Nations Security Council. Today, a farmer in Kenya, in rural Kenya actually, knows there is war in Ukraine for two reasons. Number one, he paid more for his fertilizer, and number two, his fertilizer came late.
Moving on, every year the Kenyan government embarks on a meticulous process to create the national budget, a crucial blueprint that determines the allocation of resources across the country. From initial proposals to parliamentary debates and public participation, the budget-making journey is complex and involves multiple stakeholders. This explainer by business reporter Hilary Kabila breaks down the steps and key elements of Kenya's budget-making process, shedding light on how fiscal decisions shape the nation's economic future. Here is more on the same.
The formulation of a financial budget starts months before the actual reading is done in June each year by the Cabinet Secretary of National Treasury. The budget-making process is a systematic and structured procedure involving multiple stakeholders such as the executive, president, and the public. The process is guided by the 2010 Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act of 2012. The budget preparation process is initiated by the National Treasury, marking the first stage that happens between 30th August and 30th April. The National Treasury issues the budget circular to government ministries, departments and agencies, outlining guidelines, timelines, policy priorities, and expenditure ceilings for the preparation of the budget estimates. Sector working groups comprising representatives from ministries, departments and agencies are then formed to review the sectoral policies and projects, ensuring budget proposals align with the national priorities. By September 30th, the National Treasury submits the Budget Review and Outlook paper, also called BROP, to the Cabinet for approval. BROP shows the actual expenditure in the previous financial year and projections for the final year. The BROP is then tabled in Parliament by October 21st and is to be made public not later than November 5th. The Treasury then takes the budget policy through public participation before seeking Cabinet approval. The public participation serves as a catalyst for transparency, accountability, and good governance. In January also, the Commissioner on Revenue Collection submits its recommendation for how much it should be distributed to each level of government, that is, national and county governments. These recommendations inform the division of revenue and county allocation bills, tabled annually by Parliament by February 15th. The Treasury CS then tables the budget policy statement and debt management strategy in Parliament by February 15th. At this point, ministries, departments and agencies justify their funding request before the National Assembly and engage the public to gather input and feedback on budget proposals. They then submit their budget proposals to National Treasury for consolidation. The budget estimates will then be tabled by April 30th in the National Assembly. The finance bill, which set out the revenue-raising measures, will also be tabled before Parliament by April 30th, after which the National Assembly then starts public hearing on the budget estimates in May. After the public hearings, the Treasury CS then presents the budget statement in Parliament, highlighting the revenue-raising measures in the finance bill. This is usually done in mid-June. The budget is then expected to be approved by Parliament by June 30th, which is usually the end of the financial year. Hilary Kabila, GBS.
The opposition has urged its members of the National Assembly to stick to the Parliament building until the finance bill voting is over. Kalonzo Musyoka, who was in Makueni, and Edwin Sifuna, who was in Kisumu, have urged members of Parliament from their side to reject the bill, and at the same time, Gachagua and his brigade kept their vigorous attacks to those criticizing the Deputy President for his stand on calling for the Mount Kenya unity and widespread on their turnaround to working together with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta if the President will work with Raila Odinga. Here are the details.
The Deputy President once again took to the mountain and built a spirited fight against his boss, and has warned that if President William Ruto will work with the opposition chief Raila Odinga, then there is no offense for him to work with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Wananipiga mimi ate niko na ukabila kwa sababu nimesema Uhuru Kenyatta ni mtoto wetu, tuungane pamoja. Iko makosa nimefanya? Iko makosa? Mimi niliangalia na mimi si mjinga. Wasifikiria mimi ni mjinga. Siku rais wetu ameshikana na Raila Odinga, nikajiuliza kwani mimi ni mjinga nipige Uhuru kwa sababu aliungana na Raila na rais wetu ameungana na Raila.
At the same time, a section of Eastern Region politicians have blamed Ruto's administration for sidelining them and instead offered them office messenger jobs, as former Machakos Senator and the UDA founding chairperson Johnson Muthama stated, and have vowed to support Kalonzo Musyoka on his presidential bid come 2027. On the other side, the opposition team has vowed to grace a spirited fight against the finance bill, claiming that the bill will create a heavy burden to Kenyans if it will be passed by Parliament. Hence, urged its parliamentarians to stick around Parliament because their vote against the bill will be a save to Kenyans from high and punitive taxation.
Waheshimiwa wabunge, tumesema next week, those of you who are from Wiper Democratic Movement, mimi nauliza kwa heshima, but it's actually a very firm order from the party leader, nobody will go out of Nairobi. You will do a finance bill. And the instructions ni angusha hiyo kitu. Angusha, angalau upunguze mzigo.
Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
Many thanks for joining this live broadcast. We have a lot lined up for you in our news segment tonight. But first, let us take a quick break. We'll be right back with even more.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our sins.
지셨고,
he carried our sins.
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고,
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins.
무덤에 들어가셨다가,
and he was put into the tomb.
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak.
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
About how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being crucified.
우리 죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
He was crucified to pay for our sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데.
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
If you're going to build her to be her in a span of 0 to 10 years, is this not the time where if she's crying so much for these things and is like having the daddy issues, as you're saying?
A single mother who wants to bring up a child who can enjoy the presence of the father, I go low so much.
Behind every successful woman, who is behind that woman?
So the only issue I find with my daughter, science says that daughters are always for their dad.
I don't want to settle down just so that I can have a husband who is not going to love my son.
Kama it was abusive na ulikuwa unaambiwa ni shetani alifanya nikurushie hiyo kiatu ama pasi, how sure are you? You've not tamed the devil, please.
But I want to be a different mother. I want to be a different woman in the society. I don't want my children to go through what I went through. I don't want to neglect my children as much as I'm alone.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You're still watching GBS News 9. International Youth Fellowship, in partnership with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, under the Talanta Hela initiative, held their 5th graduation of the IYF Weekend Academy. The event celebrated the achievements of over 3,000 youths who had completed their Free Youth Empowerment Academy, aligning with the government's recently approved recognition of prior learning policy. Here is more on the same. Moving on, First Lady Mama Rachel Ruto led the nation on the day of the African Child celebrations that were held at Mwatate Primary School in Taita Taveta County. The theme for the 2024 celebrations, Education for All Children in Africa, the time is now, is in line with the theme of the African Union for the year 2024, which aims to educate every African to be fit for the 21st century through the development of resilient education system. The First Lady commended the national government for the significant steps taken to improve the quality of education in the nation and make it possible for all children in Kenya to have access to quality education. Mama Rachel Ruto highlighted various strategic initiatives, including the recruitment of an extra 30,000 teachers, the school feeding program, Jitume digital hubs being developed in learning institutions, and the recent increase in budgetary allocation available for the Ministry of Education. Andrew Madime, the governor of Taita Taveta County, appreciated the emphasis on quality education in the celebrations on the importance of education as a key to children's development. Among other leaders present for the celebrations included Honorable Peter Mbogo Shake, Member of Parliament Mwatate Constituency, Honorable Lydia Haika, County Member of Parliament Taita Taveta County, and Honorable Buire. Youths interested in jobs abroad can check the legal status of the recruiting agencies with the National Employment Authority and the Ministry of Labour so that they do not lose their money to rogue agents. The Principal Secretary in the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, Ms. Roslyn Njogu, has said. She added that those seeking jobs in marine vessels, such as cruise ships, can also access information on marine work recruiters from the website of the Kenya Maritime Authority. Ms. Njogu was speaking in Embu, where they attended the second Mount Kenya East Diaspora Jobs Fair, together with Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire and the Technical and Vocational Education Training Principal Secretary Esther Moria. The fair brought together diaspora job recruiters, technical and vocational education training institutes, and the government departments who advise the youth on what they need to access jobs abroad. She challenged the youths to acquire skills that are in demand abroad to improve their chances of securing the opportunities. Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nyeri Branch Chair Ibrahim Ndegwa, called for the chamber to be involved in labor export sector, among other things, to ensure those who go to work abroad are not mistreated.
Of the training, hospitality. People to have skills, to be able to go out there, because like I've already said, what the international world wants there is a person who can do, a person with a skill. We are training the young people in Tibet to have a skill, and we have broken the curricula into skill sets so that you come into our institutions and we skill you. And our clarion call, therefore, is that the young people, please go to the Tibet institutions and learn and skill. Secondly, as the investors come into this country to establish their industries, they need the skills. And one of the big encouragements for them actually to come to this country is that we have a pool of skilled youth. Therefore, that is one of the other reason we are calling on the youth. Nobody is a failure until you decide to be a failure yourself.
Kama county government pia tutaangalia vile tutaweka kiwango fulani ya pesa kwa budget ile inakuja Julai, ndio tuweze kusukuma wale wasiojiweza na hata hizo short courses ambazo wanatakikana kufanya kabla watoke nje, na waweze hata kusoma. Kama ni Germany unaenda kufanya kazi huko, lazima ujue hiyo lugha. Kwa hivyo tutaangalia vile tunaweza saidia wengine waweze kuisoma short courses in German, wapate hiyo certification, waweze kwenda kazi nje. Passport should be a requirement for everybody. Young people, kila wakati kuwa na passport. Hata kama hujaenda, hujui siku ile utahitaji hiyo passport. And we are going to be working very closely.
Young people who are looking to find job opportunities abroad, please ensure that you work with a licensed agent. And you can find the licensed agents on the NEA website. That's the National Employment Authority website. And if you're looking for cruise jobs or jobs in the maritime industry, then you want to check the KMA website, Kenya Maritime Authority website. And it tells you exactly who is allowed to recruit. So that when you come today and you tell me GTN is recruiting for people abroad, I should be able to know hapa ni mtego ninaenda kuingia.
We are also here as referees to scout out and to get to understand that the people who are taking people out there, they are also, we become like silent observers, so that we don't have people just from the political class coming and telling us everything that we want to hear. We must have somebody who is coming in between to regulate the promises that any politicians might make to our people. So basically for us as chambers, our voice in this is very, very important, because it doesn't add up here today. It means we have to do a follow-up, a continuous follow-up, so that we can see that our people are not being mistreated, that these people are well regulated. So that's why we're here as Kenya National Chambers of Commerce, to give it a stamp. Once we remove a red card, then we'll become the whistleblowers who come in between the labor market.
And now, after 6 years of intense investigation and courtroom proceedings, the prosecution in the high-profile murder case against former Migori Governor Okoth Obado has finally closed its case. The Chief Inspector, Nicholas Osenya, delivered the late piece of testimony. The court, under the guidance of trial judge Cecilia Kithwa, will now move to the next phase, awaiting written submissions from both parties to determine if Obado and his co-accused have a case to answer in the brutal murder of Sharon Otieno. Susan Nganga with the latest developments in this gripping legal battle.
Here's the prosecution in the murder case of Sharon Otieno has concluded its presentation. Chief Inspector Nicholas Osenya, the lead investigator, provided the final testimony on Friday. The court, presided over by Justice Cecilia Githua, will now await written submissions from both parties to decide whether Obado and his two co-accused have a case to answer. Obado, along with his former personal assistant, Michael Oyamo and Caspar Lobiero, have been charged with the murder of Sharon Otieno since 2018. The defense, led by senior counsel Kioko Kilukumi, requested more time to file their written submissions, emphasizing the public interest in the case.
Once we put in written submission, you can limit the time for highlighting. And we propose a maximum of 30 minutes for the highlights. This case has been described by the investigating officer as one of public interest. Everybody wants to know, why are we making this application of no case to answer? And they need to hear why we have made that application, the reasons why.
Justice Cecilia Githua has scheduled a virtual mention on June 20th, 2024 to provide further direction on the submission timelines. Sharon Otieno and her unborn baby were brutally murdered on September 3rd, 2018, with the body later found in Kodera Forest. The prosecution presented 42 witnesses, including lead investigator Nicholas Odenya. Odenya testified that Obiero helped Oyamo obtain falsified medical documents.
My lady, I confirmed from Kisii Referral Hospital and found the documents did not originate from the hospital, my lady.
And who had helped the second accused acquire those documents that he handed over to the police?
It is the third accused person.
The court will review the written submissions before deciding whether to place the accused on their defense. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
International Youth Fellowship, in partnership with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports under the Talanta Hela Initiative, held the 5th graduation of the IYF Weekend Academy. The event celebrated the achievements of over 3,000 youth who had completed the Free Youth Empowerment Academy, aligning with the government's recently approved recognition of prior learning policy. Here is more on the same. International Youth Fellowship, in partnership with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports under the Talanta Hela Initiative, held the 5th graduation of the IYF Weekend Academy. The event celebrated the achievements of over 3,000 youth who had completed the Free Youth Empowerment Academy, aligning with the recently approved recognition of prior learning by the government.
It was very fantastic because I've realized that what we are actually doing in our IYF is not a joke. It's something that is really impactful, that is really going to help us in the future of tomorrow. And I'm very so much appreciative.
This event underscored the importance of inclusive education and the validation of skills acquired outside formal education system. The recent recognition of prior learning policy approved by the Kenyan government marked a significant shift towards recognizing and empowering individuals with diverse learning backgrounds, contributing to economic growth and development.
Ukiwa na kosi ya mkono yako inakusaidia tu sana juu inaweza kupeleka far. Kwanza kujoin kutoka nikuje huko. Kwanza huko kwa mindset imetuma nikalan a lot.
Through the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, the government has announced its intention to harness a vast pool of talented youth across various fields of skills. Dr. Ababu Namwamba, the Cabinet Secretary for Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports, revealed that the government recognition of qualification through prior learning will contribute significantly to ensure young people are skilled and well-equipped to contribute to the creative economy and start them away from negative vices.
The IYF Weekend Academy is in perfect sync, perfect harmony with our Talanta Hela initiative, because Talanta Hela is about unleashing the potential of our young people, potential in creativity, in innovation, being able to sort of deploy your talents so that they can support a sustainable livelihood for you. If you're a sports person, if you're in music, if you're in theater, if you're in dance, you're in fashion and pageantry, that becomes something that can support a sustainable livelihood for you. And we see the IYF Weekend Academy as being able to consolidate those talents, to add skills to the passion.
International Youth Fellowship East Africa Chairman Reverend Johan Kim said the team is committed to rolling out the program to all the 47 counties for all youth in the regions to benefit.
Starting from this 5th season, we have also expanded this Weekend Academy across Kenya in 20 different branches as well. And not only that, in the 6th season, 7th season, 8th season going forward, we are praying and that we also start this weekend academy in every county and every city, so that not only our youth and the young people in Nairobi may benefit from this weekend academy, but even our youth and the young people across Kenya, all over the place in Kenya, can also benefit from this training as well.
The IYF Weekend Academy is instrumental in providing skills to disadvantaged youths, many of whom were Form 4 leavers, unable to pursue further education due to financial constraints. The initiative, structured in 3 months cohort, not only equipped students with practical skills, but also empowered them to make positive contributions to their communities and the broader economy.
Nimekuja kwa graduation ya kijana wangu ambayo alikuwa akichukua kozi ya camera operation. Nistaajabu sana yeye kuniambia kuwa alipata nafasi ya kujoin hii kozi ambayo nimekuja leo kwa graduation. Ilinifurahisha sana kwa sababu miaka mingi toka amalize. Alimaliza kitu 2013. Sasa kusikia amepata hiyo opportunity, nilimtia moyo ajaribu tu.
First Lady Mama Rachel Ruto led the nation on the Day of African Child celebrations that were held at the Mwatate Primary School in Taita Taveta County. The theme for the 2024 celebrations, Education for All Children in Africa, the time is now, is in line with the theme of the African Union for the year 2024, which aims to educate every African to be fit for the 21st century through the development of resilient education systems. The First Lady commended the national government for the significant steps taken to improve the quality of education in the nation and make it possible for all children in Kenya to have access to quality education. Mama Rachel Ruto highlighted various strategic initiatives, including the recruitment of an extra 30,000 teachers, the school feeding program, Jitume digital hubs being developed in learning institutions, and the recent increase in budgetary allocation available for the Ministry of Education. Andrew Modime, the governor of Taita Taveta County, appreciated the emphasis on quality education in the celebrations on the importance of education as a key to children's development. Among other leaders present for the celebrations included Honorable Peter Mbogo Shake, Member of Parliament, Mwatate Constituency, Honorable Lydia Haika, County Member of Parliament, and Taita Taveta County, and Honorable John Buire.
Kweli chakula ni changamoto kwa wanafunzi wote kuanzia ECD hata primary level. Manake tumekuwa na dry period kwa muda mrefu. Tumeona tu mvua Novemba, tena hapo Januari ikaisha, tukajaribu kutafuta chakula ingine February, lakini mvua kidogo ikatushenga. So chakula ya watoto ni changamoto kubwa sana kwa watoto wetu.
Zamani sisi tukisoma kulikuwa na yale maziwa na wengi wetu walikunywa hayo maziwa shuleni. Tulikuwa tunaita maziwa ya Nyayo. Some of us used to go to school just because tutapata yale maziwa. Siku hizi iko chakula ya shule, na mwenzangu Mheshimiwa Shake amezungumza. Tunaomba ya kwamba hiyo program ya school feeding program, chakula kwa watoto wa shule, iwe dhabiti, iwe ni program ambayo si ya kusimama, iwe ni program ambayo inaendelea na ifanyike kwa mikakati mizuri, ili hao watoto wetu wajue watapata chakula shuleni. It is one of the motivation ya kuwafanya wazidi kwenda shule bila kuchoka. Hata ukikosa, if you don't have a meal at home, unajua utapata chakula shuleni, na basi hiyo itakusababisha uende shule.
We are still making strides to ensuring that all our children have access to the same quality of education infrastructure and facilities. We support the 100% transition at all levels, ensuring every child enjoys tertiary training to equip them with the skills they require for economic productivity. I'm confident that with our collective efforts, we can make education for all children in Africa a reality.
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. That report brings us to our international news, but first let us take a quick commercial break.
Hello everyone!
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and now to matters international news. After the G7 summit, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni met with Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, where the leaders expressed satisfaction with the strong economic ties between Italy and Algeria, particularly in energy, agriculture and industry. They also discussed progress on the Mattei Plan for Africa, including a major sustainable agriculture project. The agriculture project involves Italy Bonific Ferraresi Group developing 36,000 hectares of land in Algeria, the largest Italian investment in sustainable agriculture in the Mediterranean region. Meloni and Tebboune also talked about migration and Algeria's role on the UN Security Council. The meeting came after the conclusion of the G7 summit in Italy. Other Ukraine peace summit leaders expressed sharply divergent views on the conflict with Russia. French President Macron claimed nobody in the room was at war with Russia, while Turkey's foreign minister warned of global polarization. Kenya's President William Ruto also accused the EU of US hypocrisy over seizing Russian assets, which Moscow calls it, and I quote, illegal. Despite Russia's absence, the summit aimed to build international support for a peaceful resolution aligned with the UN Charter. Finnish President Stubb recalled Finland's losses in the World War II, underlining on the concerns of Russia's neighbors. The summit highlighted deep divisions among world leaders over the path of peace in Ukraine.
Saying what my predecessor and mentor, President Ahtisaari, once said, what humans begin, humans can also end. So I hope that this summit will be the first step in the path towards peace.
May I pass the floor to the Minister? We are already seeing deepening fault lines and increasing polarization at global level. It is increasingly becoming a war more than between Russia and Ukraine. We have the Ukrainian peace plan in front of us, and Russia has recently shared some terms. Regardless of the content and the conditions put forward, these are important steps and a glimpse of hope to start with. Excellencies, I must also note that this summit could have been more result-oriented if the other party to the conflict, Russia, was present in the room. Our vision for peace is realistic, inclusive, and practical. We are committed.
Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, sparked controversy by calling Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky the greatest salesman that's ever lived at the People's Convention in Detroit on Saturday. Trump criticized President Joe Biden's handling of the economy, stating that the current administration had wasted money at, and I quote, levels never seen before. Trump also described Biden as the worst president in the history of the country, painting a dire picture of the world, stating that it was in flames. The border was overrun and more, claiming that Biden is leading the country towards World War III. The United States has allocated roughly $113.4 billion in emergency financial aid to Ukraine under the Biden administration. Trump's comments have been met with criticism, with many seeing his remarks as an attempt to undermine Biden's commitment to Ukraine.
The world was at peace and America was stronger and more respected than ever before. It was never as respected as it was just 4 years ago. Now under crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, the world is in flames. Our border is overrun. Inflation is raging. Europe is in chaos. The Middle East is exploding. Iran is emboldened. China is on the march. And the worst, most incompetent person to ever lead this country is dragging us toward World War III. He's wasting money at levels never seen before. He's putting all this money into the Green New Scam. It's a scam, one of the greatest scams in history. Although I think Zelensky is maybe the greatest salesman of any politician that's ever lived. Every time he comes to our country, he walks away with $60 billion. 50% of inflation has been caused by the soaring cost of housing, which is skyrocketing due to Joe Biden's tidal wave of illegal immigration and high interest rates. And they're putting these illegal aliens into luxury hotels as our great warriors lie on the streets. We have people that came into our country illegally, and they're living.
Pope Francis has called on national and international authorities to stop the violence and protect civilians' lives in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The appeal comes after a week of violent attacks in North Kivu province, which resulted in the deaths of dozens of people. The Pope expressed deep concern over the ongoing bloodshed and highlighting on the suffering of Christians who are among the victims. He urged people to pray for peace in all areas afflicted by war, specifically mentioning Ukraine, the Holy Land, Sudan, and Myanmar. The Democratic Republic of Congo has struggled with armed violence for decades, with over 120 groups fighting for power, land, and valuable mineral resources. With the ongoing conflict has resulted in significant human suffering and displacement.
We continue to get painful news of battles and massacres that are happening in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I appeal to the national authorities and to the international community to do all that is possible to stop the violence and to protect civilian lives. Of the victims, many of them are Christians, killed for their beliefs. They are martyrs.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has been re-elected for a second term, but this time with a coalition government. Former South African President Jacob Zuma criticized on Sunday the country's new coalition government and called for fresh elections. The ANC and DA formed a government of national unity, marking a significant shift in South African politics, prompting Zuma, leader of the Umkhonto weSizwe party, to criticize the coalition and call for fresh elections, citing irregularities at the polling stations. The 71-year-old Ramaphosa secured a second term with the help of lawmakers from the second biggest Democratic Alliance party and others after the ANC lost its 30-year clear parliamentary majority in landmark elections 2 weeks ago.
Where have you ever heard that such a big member of political parties, not one, not Umkhonto season that people don't like, the whole big group of political parties all complaining simultaneously that we are robbed here. We want this to be looked at. Let us see the votes properly. We've got many stories about votes, some banned. You don't even need this, what people love to say. There must be a repeat. No. There must be an elections.
I think ANC and the DA, I think it's a good partnership to lead South Africa. Because I know DA, it's always talk about corruption. And the DA is always against corruption. So if ANC is going to lead alone, they do as they please. But because there's a DA there, they won't do as they please because they know DA is going to fight with them because DA, they didn't want any corruption. I don't think MK must be included. At least I can say the EFF. But although the EFF, they are full of themselves. They didn't want to work with white people. And the politics of South Africa is not all about colors now. Now it's about who is capable of doing it. Because it's been 30 years, we see the ANC was incompetent.
I think it's gonna bring like a positive, especially when it comes to the changes, because I think ANC so far, according to my observation, it has failed us. Like looking from 1994 till date, like the only thing which is happening only for the political guys, but rather by the youth of South Africa.
In terms of the government of national unity, look, it's something new. It's something South Africa has never been before, and it will be nice to see it work. So we'll have to wait and see what the politicians come up with. But I really do hope they put the people first. I think the ANC has learnt a lesson.
Do keep your comments coming in through our SMS line 21144 and GBS TV Africa on all our social media handles. And now, for sports lovers, it is time for your most anticipated part of the news, the sports news. Let's get sporty. The Junior Starlets have achieved a historic milestone, becoming the first Kenyan national team to qualify for a World Cup. This remarkable feat follows their 5-0 aggregate victory over Burundi in the fourth and final round of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifier. The decisive match took place on Saturday at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. Kenya entered the game with a 3-goal advantage from their first leg encounter in Ethiopia. Marion Sarenge opened the scoring in the 17th minute, giving Kenya an early lead. Just 4 minutes later, Warari Nekesa doubled the advantage effectively, securing Kenya's place in the global stage. Throughout the qualifiers, the Junior Starlets have displayed exceptional defensive and offensive prowess, not conceding a single goal, with scoring 8. They secured a 3-0 aggregate win against Ethiopia and a 5-0 aggregate win against Burundi, earning their spot in the 2024 FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup, set to be hosted in the Dominican Republic.
Likaingia kwa Kenya, Valerie Nekesa baada ya makosa midecha kwa mara nyingine tena ya madefender Burundi. Kenya wakacapitalize.
Kumbuka itoka ule upande mwingine ukakuja huu upande, na Valerie Nekesa aliweza kufanya kazi ya ziada. Aliangalia yule beki alikuwa amesimama wapi katikati yao, akaweza kupita, akamwangalia kipa na akaweka ule upande mwingine na akahakikisha kwamba ameipa Kenya bao la pili na la ushindi.
Ni bao ambalo moja kwa moja unaweza kusema kwamba lilipunguza pressure kwa mwalimu Mildred Cheche kwa upande wa Junior Starlets, lakini mwisho siku pia walijaribu kuweza kusema kwamba kule juu tunakuja, tunapaa kule juu. Hii hapa.
I think it's a big moment for Kenya, being part of a team that makes history for the country and being the first team to qualify for the World Cup. So it's a big moment for us as a bench, for players and also for the country. We have a very formidable team that is able to compete at any level. Through Chapadimba, Talanta Hela, school games, they've played a major role in giving us the best players because through those platforms we've been able to select the best of the best. That's why we have depth in our squad, and also through more school games, I believe we can also beef up the squad to be even better. For us, it's a blessing from God because this is the first time we are experiencing this, and it's also something big for the country and for us. So we are more motivated to even go and perform better at the World Cup. So it's a big thing for us.
Hatujakata tamaa, tunapambana, bado tunarudi, tutapambana tena. Naweza sema kama Burundi hivi, kama vile soka, kama ya wanaume, kama ya wanawake, sisi wote we are the same na tunacheza competition kama wanawake. Hakuna eti hawa ni wanawake wana competition yao, hao ni wanaume. Tunatia bidii ili kuweza kufanya development kwa kila ngambo, kwa wanawake na kwa wavulana.
No, it's a great day. This is work that's been in the works maybe for 10 years, because if you remember in 2016 tulipeleka timu yetu ya wasichana for the first time kwa AFCON, and we didn't do well in the AFCON itself, but the first time in our history we qualified in 2016. If you remember and go back and look at what I said that, if you remember, I said that women football yetu ndio the single biggest area of growth in Kenyan football. And now we went and did under 20. We lost against Ghana, if you remember, at Machakos. We continued that under 20 ndio imekuja ikakuwa national team yetu ya wasichana. We missed because of being suspended. We missed Australia. I want to remind you that we missed Australia and New Zealand because of being suspended. And now for U17, we have not conceded a goal. I can tell you the girls are not there yet, but we have a fantastic team. They have known how to win. For the first time, maybe 15,000 Kenyans today have watched, and I've asked at FIFA and been told that it's very rare for women under 17 to have that kind of viewership. So kwangu ni kusema thank you for that support, for the continuous.
And that sports news brings us to the end of our news segment tonight. Here are GBS News and we make your news our business. My name is Beatrice Njeri. Our sign language interpreter is Paul Mathenge. Good night.